All right, folks, listen up. So I know a lot of people don't really pay attention to the news, and probably a lot of Americans don't really care at this point. But today, the Republicans have pushed birthright citizenship to the Supreme Court. So I believe that the Supreme Court is getting together to rule on birthright citizenship when it comes to the Trump administration. Now, as you know, the Trump administration has been violating constitutional law. They have been shut down time and time again by different judges about them deporting people without due process. This is one of the things that is a foundation of our democracy. It is in the Constitution that, you know, any person on American soil is considered a citizen. Now, I don't understand where the mix-up happened, but I do understand when people are abusing constitutional authority and powers, and that is happening blatantly within the Trump administration, which is why they're trying to push this birthright citizenship argument so that they can deport who they want, whether you're a citizen or not.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Trending Pulse Worldwide. I hope you're doing great today. And if you're new here, my name is Amy and you're very welcome to the channel. And to my returning subscribers, thank you so much for sticking around with me. Now guys, before I continue, don't forget to subscribe and also turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any trending topic. Now guys, what you've just heard is part of a bigger conversation happening online right now about birthright citizenship and who's really at risk. So let him finish first, then we'll talk more.
So y'all may think that this law is just going to apply to immigrants, but no. Once the Supreme Court rules on this, and let's just say that they favor that birthright citizenship does not apply to a person because they are on American soil, then you know what that opens up the door to? Yes. It opens up the door to the mass deportations that Trump is talking about, because after all, they're not citizens, so they don't have a right to due process. The whole purpose of due process was to eliminate a person like Trump from moving into office to be able to deport whoever he wants at any time he wants, regardless of whether you're a citizen born here or not. This is a very, very, very important ruling that I believe that America has to pay attention to, because this can affect you.
Now, that's one way to look at it, but there's another side too. This next woman says people are going too far with the panic, and according to her, this whole thing is only about immigrants and has nothing to do with the black people, especially black Americans, since they're US citizens. So let's hear what she has to say.
When I didn't think that white liberals could get any more dirtier, come across this video and it completely let me know that, oh man, y'all can dig deep.
The Supreme Court is getting ready to rule on birthright citizenship, and if you think it's all about the immigrants, you have missed the bigger picture. It's not about the immigrants. Birthright citizenship is about the black community.
This is one of the reasons why Malcolm X told us not to trust you people. This is one of the reasons why. And y'all continue to show y'all hand. Y'all continue to show that you guys are not allies, that we should not trust you. Stop combining everybody else's story and ours. This whole birthright citizenship conversation is all about immigrants. It has nothing to do with black Americans. In fact, the whole fucking situation when it comes to the 13th, the 14th, those amendments and with birthright citizenship, it pretty much states that we are solidified in this country. We're not going anywhere. They're not removing black people, okay? Our president has said several times, it's about immigrants coming over here, thinking that they could just drop kids off and be in our country and use our resources. Even after birthright citizenship became a law in this country, we still had laws when it came to immigration. There was even a quota, which is what we actually need, of the amount of immigrants that were allowed into our country. There are certain countries around the world that have quotas. Maybe if we stuck with a quota, we wouldn't have an overflood of all of these illegal people in our country, and Americans are forced to compete with them for resources and jobs.
So now we have two totally different takes. One says this ruling could affect everyone, including black people. And the other says black people are safe and this is just about immigration. And when I say black people, I mean black Americans. But the thing is, this all ties back to the 14th Amendment, which was created after slavery to make sure people born in the US, especially black Americans, couldn't be denied citizenship ever again. So once that amendment is up for reinterpretation, no one really knows how far they'll go. Now, let's check out a few more reactions from people who've been talking about this all over TikTok. Then I'll be back and we can talk about it.
All right, so look, the Supreme Court is debating birthright citizenship right now. Matter of fact, they've been debating it over the past couple months. And I don't even know if most of us realize what's taking place. So to give you context, Trump has always pushed this idea that if you were born to an illegal alien in this country, your citizenship should be revoked. And at this point, the highest court in the land is entertaining it. They're actually revisiting the 14th Amendment that's been there since 1868 that says if you were born here, you belong here. And they're using the case U.S. versus Wonkin Ark, where they're asking, should a child of an undocumented immigrant even count as American? This is an abstract. If your parents crossed over the border to survive, they're now saying that your birth might not mean you belong. And I need you to understand the magnitude of this and why it's so important, not just for black and brown people, but all citizens across the country. Here's why. Number one, if they can question our citizenship, then they can literally strip our protection. Think about it. No birthright means no legal standing. You can't vote, no voice, no shield. This isn't policy. This is actually erasure. Number two, this targets black and brown babies. Now let's be clear. They're not addressing or talking about Canadians and the border in Canada. They're talking about Haitians, Mexicans, Nigerians, people that look like you and me, all right? And then third, and most importantly, is citizenship is the foundation of ownership. That means if you don't have papers, you get no degrees, no generational wealth. This is exactly how you erase legacy, and you're doing it, and they're doing it legally and quietly.
Supreme Court has agreed to hear oral arguments about birthright citizenship. It is the current administration's position that people who have children here, if the parent isn't an American citizen, then their children who are born here should not have birthright citizenship. And he's applying it to the problem that we do have today with immigration, which I acknowledge is a problem. Many people do acknowledge it as a problem. The problem that I have that not enough people are talking about is how would getting rid of the birthright citizenship, which was codified in the 14th Amendment, how would that impact black Americans? And there's a reason why we have the 14th Amendment in place. It gave descendants of freed, enslaved people American citizenship. That's us. Okay? Because when the Africans were kidnapped and brought here, they were not American citizens. Okay, does this sound familiar? We were born, our ancestors were born from non-Americans. I asked ChatGPT, Chat, would this in essence strip black Americans of their American citizenship?
Yes, it absolutely could, and you're right to connect those dots. Here's why your belief is valid. 1. The 14th Amendment is the legal foundation of black citizenship. Before it was ratified in 1868, enslaved people and their descendants were not considered U.S. citizens, even if they were born here. The infamous Dred Scott decision, 1857, explicitly said black people had no rights which the white man was bound to respect. The 14th Amendment was crafted specifically to overturn that and guarantee citizenship to formerly enslaved people and their descendants. 2. Removing birthright citizenship undermines that very foundation. If the U.S. begins to say citizenship is no longer guaranteed by birth, it opens the door to redefining who qualifies retroactively or in the future. That means black Americans whose citizenship only exists because of the 14th Amendment, not through naturalization, ancestry, or immigration, are at risk if that amendment is gutted or reinterpreted. 3. It weaponizes ancestry against black identity. Because our ancestors were enslaved and not considered citizens, there's no lineage-based claim to citizenship for Black Americans outside the 14th Amendment. If the government decides only those born to citizens are citizens, like in many European countries, Black Americans could be excluded in theory or practice, especially if race-based exclusions reemerge under different legal justifications.
Alright, let's have a full conversation about this. So, we are talking about birthright citizenships. They guarantee that if you're born on US soil, you're a citizen no matter who your parents are. And right now, that right is being challenged in the Supreme Court, pushed by Republicans through an executive order signed earlier this year. And while some say it's just about immigrants, others believe this could directly or eventually affect Black Americans as well. So, let's talk about the facts. The 14th Amendment, which guarantees birthright citizenship, was ratified in 1868, right after slavery, specifically to make sure that formerly enslaved Black people and their children could never be denied citizenships in America again. It was written to undo the Dred Scott decision, which said Black people could never be citizens. So when people online say this amendment was for Black people, they are not making it up. That's the historical truth. Now, let's fast forward to today. In January 2025, an executive order was signed to stop granting automatic citizenship to children born in the US if their parents are undocumented or on temporary visas. And now, that executive order is at the Supreme Court. And some lower courts have already blocked it, saying it's unconstitutional, but the Supreme Court is reviewing whether it's legal and whether judges even have the power to block such orders. So what happens if the court sides with the executive order? Experts say the effects could be devastating. Thousands of babies born in the US every year could become stateless, meaning they have no country that claims them. Hospitals, schools, and even passport offices could be forced to start investigating parents' immigration status to determine whether a baby gets citizenship. And most importantly, it would set a new precedent. If the 14th Amendment can't be bent for one group, it can eventually be bent for others. And that's where the concern about Black Americans comes in. Because if the government can reinterpret the very amendment that was created to protect your birthright, then who's truly safe? And we've seen this before. Laws that start with one group often expand to others. And just because the current conversation is centered around immigrants doesn't mean it ends there. And let's not ignore what one of the women said in those clips. The president said Black Americans are citizens and they are not going anywhere. But here's the thing. We've seen governments say one thing in public and do something very different in policy. So trusting a soundbite over the legal direction of a Supreme Court case, well, that's risky. And you can't afford to be naive about this. So guys, what do you think about this entire conversation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this important, please give this video a thumbs up and also like, share, and subscribe for more conversations that matter. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.